Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome, living beneficiaries, to the show for living beneficiaries, the House of Hidalgo show on the Estate Radio Network. Prepare for the most educational 60 minutes on all of radio with your host, Rick Hidalgo. The House of Hidalgo show can be followed on Twitter or Facebook by searching House of Hidalgo. Find the show on the web at www.therockofsalem.org. Sign up for the newsletter, and while you're there, take the 5-question survey to let us know what you think. The Estate Radio Network is part of the Blog Talk Radio family of networks and can be found at www.blogtalkradio.com/South Dakota DP. Join the show now by chat or call 619-639-4605. Don't forget to dial 1 to get in the queue. Here's your host, Rick Hidalgo! Welcome, kings and priests. This is Rick Hidalgo. Of course, this is the Hidalgo, the House of Hidalgo show. I can't believe I stumbled on that. And you're listening on the Estate Radio Network. Of course, the network that's dedicated to you, the living beneficiary. And today is an exceptional day here in South Dakota as we have lovely weather once again. Gardens are growing nice outside, and here in the Midwest, we're really enjoying our agricultural time of year. And speaking of agricultural, I think that's a great segue into this show, because today we are online with Julie. She's from www.anniesheirloomseeds.com, and I tracked them down, and she's going to discuss with us today a little bit about what they've got going on. Before I bring her on the call here, I'm going to instruct listeners that if you want to join in the chat, go down to the bottom of the page on blogtalkradio.com/South Dakota DP, and there you will find the chat. Otherwise, just call in 619-639-4605, dial 1 to get in the queue if you have something you'd like to bring up. Without any further ado, I'm going to bring in my special guest, that is Julie. Julie, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Julie, thanks very much for being willing to come on and share what it is that you guys do there at Annie's Heirloom Seeds. I've been to the website. My wife and I, we bought some seeds in the past. I can't remember what they were, but I know that we did get some, and we've always had success with heirloom seeds, no matter where we get them. So we appreciate what you're doing to contribute to the seed supply, and I just want to maybe start this conversation off by asking you, how did you get involved with heirloom seeds? How did you get started?
We got started about 15 years ago. We were in graduate school at the University of Chicago, living in the city, and we realized that was not the life for us. It was, we were looking at a path of professors and big cities and careers, and it wasn't a good fit. So my husband, Scott, went about researching, because that's what we do, and he found a book in the library called You Can Farm. And we read it and were hooked. So we started farming in our city lot and planted strawberries and a fruit tree, and we're looking for a job for him back near his parents on so that we could start farming. And that was he found a job, took a big pay cut, and we bought our 30 acres and built a house and started farming. So as you can imagine, a lot of trial and error, a lot of books, and not knowing anything about what we were doing, because we're city people. And my mom's family are farmers, but I didn't grow up doing it. And we tried, we're primarily homesteaders. At first, we raise all of our food. And then we started raising food for other families, and we were doing meat and milk and vegetables. And the vegetables were the thing that actually was the hardest. I couldn't get things to grow right. I was struggling. I didn't realize I had a horrible weed field that I was trying to get rid of and garden in. And so I ended up finding a woman who became my best friend, who I apprenticed under. And she lived in town and didn't have land, and I had land and no knowledge. So she came out every week and taught me how to garden, and we shared the produce from the garden and fed our families for the year. And I learned an immense amount. But I still had no idea what an heirloom was. That I learned at a talk given by a wonderful Amish man who said, you want heirlooms. They taste better, and they are more nutrient dense. They always have more vitamins and minerals in them than the hybrid grown next to them. And I'm all about nutrition and high nutrient dense foods. So I went about on the internet finding these seeds. I was going to find these seeds, and I was going to grow them. And I grew everything I could and discovered that they tasted amazing. They grew better. They were vegetables I thought I didn't like, I liked. And I just threw everything out the window. I didn't realize that I liked vegetables that much. And I started growing them. But I had some problems. At that time, a lot of the companies were not shipping seeds for a month, so they'd arrive after I could plant them. Yeah, that bothered me. They would ship seeds that would get cooked in the mail, or they cooked them at their house. I don't know, but they were dead. Because as a chemist by training, I run experiments. So I plant 7 kinds of carrots next to each other to see which one I liked best, and one would not come up, or 2 would not come up, and I knew that's not me because the other 5 did. So I started to get frustrated with, not getting them, not getting good ones. And we were also looking for, a lifestyle that would fit with us and getting my husband out of the corporate world. So I said, you know what? I want to sell these things. I want to be the seed company that gets you good quality seeds on time, ships them when you order them so that you can get them and plant them, to be that company that I wanted to buy from. And so that's how we started Annie's.
Excellent. That sounds great. A lot of things you just said there. I just took a whole bunch of notes. One thing you said the book you found was called You Can Farm.
Yes.
It struck me a little bit humorous off the top because my I have a big family. My wife and I, we have 6 children, and generally every book that we end up bringing home is got a really simplistic title like that one does. You Can Farm. So what was that? Was it like a DIY kind of book, like a do-yourself type of book? Or?
Yeah, it was written by Joel Salatin, and he developed. He's kind of the father of the modern direct marketing, alternative farming type of movement, where you sell your produce, your vegetables, your meat, your milk straight to the final consumer and bypass so that they get to know their farmer, and you raise it grass-based, naturally how they were supposed to be raised, and using more modern techniques like electric fencing and using your tillers, but still going organic-minded and more healthy for both the animals, the vegetables, and the people doing the work.
Right.
And so it's kind of it was kind of an inspiring how to get started. And then he has a couple other books on the specifics of the different. He did mostly chicken and beef and pork, but how how to pick what's your thing and get excited about it and do it.
Right. And it's always interesting to hear stories like this where it starts off with a book and you're reading a concept that you get excited about, and then to find out how you were able to bridge that to where you're at today. You mentioned that your husband took a pay cut in order to go out there. Well, that says a lot to me because it means that you've got a passion about what you're doing. It's not about the money. It was about the passion that you guys had for doing this, and that to me speaks volumes. So tell me about that adventure. Did you guys encounter a lot of roller coaster along the way?
Well, yeah, a lot of. I'm the entrepreneur, and I'm always starting a business, and I was always finding something else to sell. And my husband's not, and he's been dragged kicking and screaming, and now he is one by osmosis. But begging me to please stop trying something else. Just, I've got a job that pays the bills. We can afford the homesteading. We would never give up our food supply. And then I'd come up with, it lasts 2 weeks. Then I'd come up with a new idea, and I'd start doing it. And Annie's was the last thing that he begged me not to start. And he has apologized for that because this was the best thing we've done. So.
Well, that's excellent. That's excellent. Now, how did you get the name Annie's?
Annie is my grandmother, and I named my oldest daughter, after her. And my father says it's all over his side of the family too, so it's a family name.
Oh, okay, cool. Always good to get to the roots. Let's see here. You also mentioned in your background story that you had a lot of education. You mentioned that you did a lot of self-education with that, which that makes my baby jump because I love self-education. I think if you're not self-educating, you're dying. And then on the other side, you mentioned that you had some Amish training. There was an Amish man that came into your life and gave you some training. That we see a lot of that here in the Dakotas too. And so it's interesting to hear the backstory of how you met. How did that come about? How did you meet this gentleman?
I was a part of the Weston A. Price Foundation, which is kind of how to go about eating healthy and getting good, nutritious food. And it was the chapter that I was president of, and we'd invite speakers in to give talks about things. And he was one of the CSA people who would sell vegetables to some of our members. And so they asked him to come in and give a talk. And so, yes, I'm always about learning things, and I'm always going to every place I can to learn something new. It's part of who I am.
Right. Yeah, and I find that for some reason there's almost a magnetism. When I go looking for somebody to bring on the show, I always end up finding people that are like me in that we're self-educated. We love to be educated. We love to learn, because I grow through these experiences on this show. I love this stuff. Now, there's obviously another side to this that sometimes is kind of, some people would call the nasty side. That legal side. When you're talking about going from farm to consumer, obviously there's all these hoops to jump through. How do you jump those hoops, and what's your strategy there?
With the seeds, we don't have to worry that much. There are laws that are very easy to follow. My husband has always been begging me to get away from food because the laws are so nasty. We did pastured poultry. There are some, it depends on the state you're in. Many states have 1,000 birds that you can sell before they start to look at you. Michigan said 0. You can't process a bird for anyone and give it away. Here you weren't supposed to make a jar of jam and give it away. So we got around that by having processing parties. You bought live birds and everybody came together and butchered their chickens together. We provided the equipment and knowledge, and every single customer butchered chickens. They didn't. My husband did all the killing. I did most of the gutting, but they were plucking chickens and rinsing chickens and cutting off heads and feet. And I always told them, if you're squeamish, go make lunch and watch the kids, kind of like those Amish barn raisings. And no one would go watch my kids. They wanted to be a part of it. And most of a lot of our customers homeschool like we do, and they viewed it as anatomy class. And so I was dissecting chickens and showing them the inside to all the kids who were there. And we also did, I did goat and cow share, which is a pretty well-established way of getting around the raw milk laws, that we had a legal contract drawn up, and the customers bought a share of the herd, paid for the maintenance, and they received a portion of the milk from it. And that milk volume would change over the year according to how much the cows or goats were producing. And that was how we did it. They had to buy in and own the animals because you could drink the milk from your animal, but you couldn't drink raw milk from purchased.
Huh.
So there's a lot of, you read that law and you say, what can I come up with that hits this law but still allows the consumer who's passionate about it to get their product?
Yeah, that's good. So you have not had any crazy run-ins like some of these other companies.
We got out of the milk share when things started to get. Each farm does its own thing, and another farm in Michigan was putting raw milk in a cooler at a health food store for someone to pick up. Now it entered government-inspected place. Mm-hmm. That's not allowed. We dropped milk off at a fridge in my in-laws' garage. That was allowed because that's just a fridge I put there. So, other people will skirt the laws. Some of the share programs, they don't have it as explicit as we did, and they would say you buy a share and then you buy the milk, and I would cringe because you're buying milk. That was the whole point, is that you're not buying milk. I didn't sell you milk. And with our goat shares, the goats dry up in the winter, and people would choose to bow out and pay the 1-month boarding fee for the entire dry period. That was how we set it up. And some people would not have milk for 4 or 5 months, and the others would get that portion of the milk. And so ours really was, you got a portion of what came out of the herd.
Right. Well, that's excellent. That's a good idea and a way to get around that color of law issue. And that's good that it came out here, because a lot of my listeners are agricultural or permaculturally minded, so they're thinking of these kind of things. So it's good that you mentioned that. Tell me how it is that how do you involve your family? Did I see that you have children?
Yes, I have 3 kids.
Yeah. Okay. How do you involve them in this operation?
We are primarily, right now we grow some of our seeds and we resell most of our seeds that we buy from small farmers in mostly the Pacific Northwest, but co-ops of American farmers and some imported. And so our kids are, my daughter likes to help in the garden, and the garden are test plots for all the vegetable varieties. I grow everything we sell so that I can really know what we're selling. And in the winter, when we're packing and shipping, the kids actually participate in it. And if they're old enough and they can do alphabetical order, they may have pulled your order. They're pretty good at it. They run the seed machines to pack and fill the envelopes, and they're as good as anyone else doing that kind of work.
Yeah, good.
So they work right alongside us, and they love doing it. They beg. It's fun.
Right. And of course, I'm sure you use it in an educational manner as well.
Well, they're pulling alphabetical order. They have to learn to read the name of every vegetable. And then they, of course, ask where that name came from and what it means. And they work on the computers and how those kinds of things work, and, having to work on their handwriting if they're ever going to sign their name. They're not allowed to until they can write legibly. So there's a lot to learn about how business works and making sure the customer's happy, along with the fact that they're sitting next to us doing math and reading as well, because half the time they're doing school while we're working.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about that making customers happy thing, because you mentioned earlier in your backstory that you had gotten a lot of really bad seed. And, some of it was cooked along the way. You even mentioned some of it might have been cooked before it came. So I wonder, how is it that Annie's, how do you differentiate yourself in that area?
Well, as far as the seed quality, everything we have has been germination tested, and I'm unless we absolutely can't get something above 80%, that's my cutoff, and I like to see it higher. So I will get seeds in from a company, and it comes in at 65% germ rate. The government says it's good to sell, and I put it in the trash can. I plant it in my own garden knowing that it's not going to come up real great. I just don't want to sell you something that isn't going to come up, or half of it's not going to come up.
Right.
This year there was a crop failure in carrots, so we're having to put up with some lower germ rates, so we overfill those packets so that you get enough viable seeds. But it's, making sure that, and as far as cooking the seeds, we do have a problem with the orders that come in the middle of the summer that go to someone that's getting cooked by the post office sitting in a truck. We can't always, and if they did get cooked, we will send another set. Nothing's coming up. That means it got cooked. You get new seeds. But it's best if you're ordering to order when it's cold out, because then your seeds aren't getting cooked by the post office or UPS.
Right. Yeah. Good point. What causes those germination rates that you're encountering? Especially, you mentioned the carrots were having a problem. What do you have any clue what's going on there?
Well, I know what's going on with carrots. They had a crop failure in most of the carrot seeds in the United States last year, so we're having to use 2-year-old seeds. It's just, if you want carrots this year, there weren't any seeds that came up last year. Everything, I'm not sure exactly what the crop failure was, but it's very hard to get fresh seeds. The only ones that are fresh came from Europe, and I bought and sold all of those already, so I can't get any more. So, yeah, so we're using 2-year-old seeds, and carrots, each vegetable, the germination rates drop at a different rate, and carrots are one of the fastest to drop. So you're going to see lower germination rates on 2-year-old seeds, and those are the ones that we will not sell old carrot seeds, except this year because you still want carrots. And, you're still going to get carrots, but we're just going to have to overfill your packet, and you're going to have to, not have as many come up, which you're not always going to notice with carrots because they're one of the ones that you plant so many seeds, and you're not really sure that you got less than you used to.
Right.
But this year is just the carrots, and it was really frustrating when we first got the seeds in, and the American supplier said, no, we can't give you any carrots. So you're looking in your bin of carrots that you have sealed from the previous year saying, I'm not giving those away this year. I have to keep them because we need to have some carrot seeds. And then you buy everything from Europe you can because they didn't have a crop failure there. But the suppliers there are in a different season than we are. And they typically don't ship until February to March. And Americans buy most of their seeds in January and February. So we're not even getting the seeds in before people are expecting their gardens to go in the South.
Right.
So there's logistics problems with dealing with other countries.
Well, that would work for us here in the Midwest because, like this year, we didn't see the snow go away until late April.
Yeah, we're in Michigan, so I'm in the same boat. But it's amazing how many people in the north are buying their seeds in January and February.
Really?
And they're excited. It's my mother-in-law tells me, Christmas, the day after Christmas, you pull out all your seed catalogs and you play in your garden. That's just how her family does it, and I've heard that a lot. That's the fun. You get your seed catalogs, and then after Christmas, their fun part is planting your garden.
Wow.
And then they go order them.
I'll have to try that. I hadn't even considered doing it right after Christmas. It always seemed kind of early to me, but yeah, I can see the use for that.
When I was just planting my garden, I'd plant it in probably January, my downtime from the rest of the farm. Now that I'm busy, our busiest time is January through March and April. I'm having a real tough time planting my garden. I'm actually planting next year's garden in like November now.
Really? Wow.
Well, that's my downtime. I want to have enough time to think about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So let me ask you this: are you seeing a lot of orders from people who use greenhouses? I mean, just really weird times of year. No,
we don't. I can usually track things by you look at them and you're saying, oh yeah, they're in Texas, they're in Florida. They actually ordering their tomato seeds right now for their second tomato crop. They have 2 tomato crops in the far south, and so I can see a lot of that. The only thing I get perplexed with is our Alaska orders, and they've got to be doing a lot of greenhouse work up there. So They just have to. And so I've had to do a little bit of, that's one of my next learning projects, is to learn the various climates for the various parts of the country and develop some gardens specifically to those regions. We have some northern and southern basic tomatoes and gardens, but I'm looking at more the extremes of the far south Florida and Alaska, where they have such different growing requirements, putting some collections together for them.
So are you I have to admit I haven't looked really well through your catalog there, but is it all heirloom seed, or is there some hybrid mixed in there?
We do not do any hybrids.
No hybrid. Okay.
We decided that there are a few hybrids that might be worth growing, like some of the old-fashioned sweet corns, but our customers really want to know that when they come to our site, they don't have to think about that. It's going to be an heirloom. So we decided that we are going to be only heirlooms, and we define heirlooms to be 50 years old and open-pollinated. So you're not going to see any newer varieties of vegetable seeds on our site either. You're going to see everything is old and established and has been around a long time and withstood the test of time, really.
Right. No, that's great. Authenticity means a lot to people like us too, because I've interviewed several people that are in the GMO issue, the GMO fight right now, and they're even questioning hybrids. They're looking at it very scientifically, trying to evaluate in their mind whether they even want to compromise with a hybrid, although hybrids have nothing to do with the GMO thing. But so it's very important to know that your sourcing is all open pollinated heirloom seed. That's really cool. So do you get a lot of people that are ordering from you that are just trying to escape this whole GMO mess?
I think a lot of them are. I think I think the GMOs aren't understood, and it's a lot of fear involved in them, which I don't like them. I don't think they've proven themselves. They just stated they're safe. They haven't done any conclusive evidence to proof that these things are safe. And then my biggest complaint in it is when talking to the people who do the GMOs is that they try and put the burden of proof on us, that I'm supposed to prove that mine are better than theirs or that theirs isn't safe. And I'm like, you're the one who invented these things. You're the one who has to prove to me it's safe. My food's safe. I know it's safe. It's been around thousands of years, hundreds of years. My food's safe. You prove to me your food's safe. I'm not going to eat it until you've done that.
Right. Yeah, 10-4. That's a major issue here in this particular state of South Dakota, because our major universities are pretty much bought and sold on Monsanto. So we fight that fight a lot here in South Dakota, and we're constantly looking for sources that provide heirloom seeds. So it's great to have you on the program. I will definitely be sharing this with all of my farmer friends out here who are trying to move away from the agricultural mindset of tearing down an entire plot of land and planting one thing, and trying to move towards more of a permaculture where they're growing a variety of things on their land, and they're encountering a lot of problems with that. Trying to move away from their GMO crops. So it's great to have you. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, there's a real problem with the corn. It's got a 2-mile cross-pollination radius. That Monsanto corn pollen is everywhere, and you can't get away from it. We actually are getting away from it. We're moving to an island out in the middle of Lake Michigan that has no commercial agriculture. So we are getting the non-GMO corn strains and saving those seeds so that we can grow them out there where we don't have that GMO pollen anywhere, because there's 20 miles of water between us and a cornfield. So
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, that's we right now we purchase from companies that are doing the open pollinated and the heirloom corns, but I fear that these fields are all going to get contaminated, and we need to keep our corn, because most of the things aren't as wind pollinated as the corn, but the corn's tough to keep clean. And people say we're doing non-GMO corn. Yeah, and they run the tests, and there's 1% in there. The only way you're going to get, if you want to eat non-GMO corn, buy it from Europe, because they don't allow the GMOs there, and so that corn is okay.
Right.
The United States corn, it's going to have some in it. It's
right.
so hard to get away.
Yeah, the only way I attempt to do so in my little garden in my backyard is to try to plant it long after they plant theirs.
Yeah.
That's the best effort I have.
Or you can do bagging. That's the seed savers method, and you have to cover each ear with a paper bag, a special paper bag, and hand pollinate 200 different ears to get them properly pollinated, and then it's a lot of work, and it's messy. And
wow.
I was looking at doing that, and I use like greenhouses and fans, but this is actually much easier. Just move away from them.
Yeah. If you have that ability, absolutely. That sounds good. I'll tell you what, Julie, I'm going to take a quick little 2.5-minute station break here, and then we'll be right back.
Thank you.
Do you need an experienced editor to look over your short story, script, or novel? Do you need help building a platform or self-publishing your book? Are you on the cusp of realizing your dream, but you need someone to help you with those few extra steps? Are you a business in need of an established copy editor or copywriter? Dan O'Brien has more than a decade of experience in writing and publishing, and his rates are flexible. All that matters to Dan is the integrity of your artistic vision, and Dan can help you create the highest quality work possible. Please email Dan today at amalgamconsulting@gmail.com or visit his website, www.amalgamconsulting.com. That's AMALGAM consulting.com. Write Dan today. Start your dreams tomorrow. Do you have hopes, dreams, and goals, but don't know how to reach them? Do you wonder how you could do differently to achieve greater success at home or at work? Do you feel like something is holding you back from enjoying your life to the fullest? Are you fed up with status quo and ready for real and lasting life change? Are you wanting to start a business or expand an existing one? If the answer to any of these questions is yes, then you are ready for life coaching with Mr. Attitude. Mr. Attitude will stretch and grow you and take your life to a whole new level of success by equipping you with the tools to help you to accomplish more in less time, get and keep your priorities in line, gain greater happiness and joy, face your fears, plan for success, be more assertive and confident, overcome negative stress, deal with negative thinking, set goals you will achieve, and more. Mr. Attitude specializes in results producing. Life strategy coaching for the personal side of your life. Small business coaching for those who want to start a small business or build a stronger small business. Train the trainer coaching for those who aspire to become a motivational professional speaker. Call today and reserve your appointment with greater success. 605-450-1955. That's 605-450-1955. Or email Bob at MrAttitudespeaks.com. That's MrAttitudespeaks.com. Mr. Attitude is committed to your success. Well, we're back here on the House of Hidalgo show on the Estate Radio Network. We are on today with Julie from Annie's heirloomseeds.com. That's www.anniesheirloomseeds.com. And the first half of the show, we discussed, we discussed a lot of things about her particular backstory, her family, how they got started in this particular business, some of the legal aspects as to how they're how they're able to do what they're doing. We discussed how her family is really all gets involved and how they're all helping. Um, Also, we discussed some of the causes for germination rates and had a little GMO discussion there on. So um, so yeah, we've been all over the place. I appreciate what you're doing, Julie. You guys provide obviously a great service, and it's a timely service too, because people people need this stuff. We've got to be able to get the nutrients that our body needs, and this really, unless heirlooms pretty much the only way to get it done anymore.
Yeah, you're right. They do a great job of just packing those nutrients in. They seem to get the stuff out of the soil in a better way than the hybrids and put a lot of good nutrients in your food.
Right. You mentioned that they taste better too. Have you also experienced the fact that they seem to get bigger as well? I mean, because that's what I'm experiencing. Everything in my garden is heirloom, and these things are humongous. They're growing to be, and they look good. I mean, do you have that same experience?
I think it depends on the variety and the intent. When they do the hybrids, most of those are being developed for commercial operation. That's where the money is the big field. So they need them to be harvested by tractors. They need them to be harvested all at once. They need them to transport well. They need them to look good at the grocery store. The customer wants to pick the pretty one. So when they breed for that stuff, they lose taste. They lose nutrients because you have to make choices. The heirlooms were chosen by mostly backyard gardeners who wanted it to taste good. They liked big. They liked pretty, but pretty and like interesting. The yellow tomato or the striped eggplant. And they, honestly, you don't care when you go out to the garden how long it keeps because you're going to eat it that day. And you're going to pick it at the peak of ripeness. And you don't care if it's going to bruise tomorrow because you've eaten it already. And you really don't care if the plant's huge. That just means you get more from it. So I think the hybrids, they actually engineered smaller so the tractors can manage them. So the heirlooms are the natural way the vegetables grew.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they definitely taste better because, I have to admit, I was one of those kids when I sat at the table, I pushed away the beets and I pushed away the turnips and stuff like that. But I got a story I could tell right now. I just 2 days ago pulled a beet out of my garden and chopped that sucker up, and I couldn't believe that I actually liked the beet.
Honestly, I was a picky eater too. My husband and I were both picky eaters into our 20s. He didn't like green beans, and it was all in what vegetable you started with, how it was cooked, and then that was when I tasted my first heirloom. I said, okay, everything's out the window. I don't know what I like and don't like anymore. Let's grow everything. And we found out we like almost everything. There's a few things here and there that we don't like, and now I can honestly say I don't like a turnip. But everything else is pretty much, we grow it, and the whole family eats it, and my kids love them too. And they just don't understand kids who don't eat vegetables.
Right, yeah. Oh, that's funny because my kids would be the exact same way. How big is your farm there? How many acres you guys on, and how do you got it all divided out?
Okay, we're in the process of moving. We own 2 farms right now. My husband is on our new farm, and I'm on the old farm. The old farm is 30 acres, 20 of it's pasture. The garden is about 1/8 to 1/4 acre, so it's not huge, which is plenty to tend for one person. I do most of it. I hire gardeners now, but it was my own. And it produces all of our food and then some, because I've got tests going on all the time of new varieties, or, they're old heirlooms, but they're new to Annie's, seeing what we want to carry. And The rest of it's a hay field that the neighbors hay and give us a third of the hay, and that's enough to keep our cows and goats through the winter. And we have free-range chickens and every kind of poultry imaginable running around, and a small herd of cows and a small herd of goats for milk. And on our new farm, we have 2 pieces of property, coming to about 50 acres. We needed more up there because the grass season is shorter, so we need bigger hay fields. And at the moment, they're all covered in overgrowth and juniper bushes, so that's going to get cleared. We have to do a lot of treatment to bring the soil back up, but it's not been farmed for 30 to 50 years, so it's very, it will be very nice to have no possibility of chemicals being dumped there for 50 years.
Yeah.
It's just fallow. We start from scratch, but we're really excited about what we can do with it.
Yeah, that is exciting, especially for someone scientifically minded like you.
Yeah, I'm excited that second 10 acres, it's a separate 10, is going to hopefully we'll be able to pursue a certified organic farm for our seed production for the future. And that's going to have, that's my baby. So I'm excited about green manures and how to get the livestock there. The livestock are an integral part of our garden because they provide the fertilizer. So I'm picking the animals that go there for the fertilizer production and the hay field over there, and then the gardens, which have to be deer-proofed there. So I have we're going to be doing a lot of raised beds and some permaculture-minded things like hugelkultures to
sure.
get our, yes, because it's a sandy soil, so I need water retention. So, you know, all these things that I learn at talks I go to give. People invite me to give a talk, and then I learn about hugelkultures from someone sitting in the audience asking me about them. And I love giving talks because I always learn something.
Right. The intention is for you to teach, and then it turns out to be a lesson.
It always is, and I love it because you have to go with an open mind. You can't go as the expert. You go as someone who's got something to share, and there are many people there who have something to share, and you can always learn something.
Right. Yeah, that's super. I wonder, have you, being scientifically minded the way you are, have you tried other ways of gardening like aquaponics, that kind of stuff?
That's where I tend to stick with nature. If I have to figure out what things have to go in the water, I'm going to mess it up.
Right.
I think it's arrogance to think you can know more than God knows about this stuff. And He's given me this wonderful soil and these, manures that come out of the animals that I compost. And if I'm doing soil amending, I'm going to use kelp, for trace minerals, because that ocean water, those plants have absorbed the right amount of things. So I tend to go with something that's kind of tried and true, like the heirlooms that's been done for many years, that isn't. I'm an interesting scientist. I look at modern science, and I use it in a lot of ways, but I tend to stick with the old tried and true for a lot of those kind of things, because there's some trace minerals there we don't understand. You're going to miss it.
Right. All I can say to that is amen. That's what this program is all about, getting back to the original intent. And Annie's Heirloom Seeds is all about getting back to the original intent. So we have that in common. It was an interesting question to ask because I get the idea by listening to you that you do like to throw some experiments in there every so often.
Oh, my garden, you can tell a scientist is running it. There's always an experiment. And we have a new employee this year. She's a longtime gardener, and she's kind of catching the experiment bug. We always get asked which cucumber is the best for pickles.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I've grown them all, but I don't know which is the best for pickles, and they kind of seem the same. So I told her, let's find out. And she's like, how are we going to do that? And I'm like, well, here are 9 different kinds of pickle cucumbers. And we planted them at her house. And we planted 9 different kinds. And I said, and then when they come in, we're going to make the same kind of pickle with all 9 kinds of pickles, labeled well. And we may make 4 or 5 different kinds of pickles. It's all different, 9 different kinds. And then we're going to sit down and taste all of them at the same time. And she's like, that's cool. So she's now telling everyone who comes to visit about the pickle experiment. But I've done that with, we'll sit at dinner with 6 kinds of green beans cooked all in the exact same way, sitting in a bowl on the table. And my kids and my husband and I are sitting there, which one do we like the best? And then we try them raw, which one do we like the best? And then I can tell you, this one's best raw, this one's best cooked, this one's best frozen, this one's best canned.
You got your own, you got your own little panel.
And usually it's I win out but my husband gets second say, and the kids, well, they're getting a refined palate though. They're starting to be able to tell what's the difference.
Right. So, what kind of varieties can we expect to see on Annie's heirloomseeds.com? Are we going to see we're going to see both the black eggplant and the white eggplants, or just give me an idea.
You're going to see a wide variety. That's what I try. I'm the one who picks what goes in the catalog, what we sell. I try and keep it so that it's an interesting collection of things. And like amongst the eggplants, you're going to see a wide variety from. I come at this from a cook's perspective, so you're going to see the different uses of them. You're going to see Asian eggplants, and you're going to see American eggplants. You're going to see ones that are good for Italian cooking, and I'll tell you what their general uses are. You're going to see colorful ones, interesting ones, and you're not going to see a lot of the same. If you want Black Beauty eggplant, then buy Black Beauty eggplant. I'm not going to carry 4 different eggplants that all look like Black Beauty. Then you don't know which to pick. And amongst the other things like tomatoes, I wanted to make sure that it wasn't overwhelming. There are so many red tomatoes that I go about picking the best 8 in a subcategory, and I try and keep it to 8. I think that's about the most you want to read through, and you can look at on a web page before you just think they're all the same and you throw a dart at it. And then every year I'm testing new varieties, and sometimes you'll see things disappear because it wasn't as good as the newer one, or I say new to Annie's. And I'm also, now we've done all the ones that are available commercially, so now I'm testing the ones that I can only get a few seeds of that we will have to grow. And those are exciting because a lot of those are amazing and provide things that we just can't get from the commercially available ones. But those are a couple of years from being in production because we have to test them, pick the right ones, and then we have to get enough seeds going on our farm, spread out enough so they don't cross-pollinate, so that we can provide them in quantity for our customers.
It's interesting that you say that because I have from time to time a naturopathic doctor that comes on my show, and one of the things that we've talked about on occasion is the nutrients in food, especially in grains, and how they've changed over the years, and how he talks about all the time how corn, there used to be a very, very good source of corn that had a totally different variety of nutrients in it than we have today. And so I wonder, is that kind of the direction you're going? Are you trying to dig back as far as you can and find that that American variety of corn, or that American variety of whatever crop?
I'm always drawn to things with a long story, an old story. So those are things that will get added to the catalog because they appeal to me. They also appeal to everyone. People like to have a story behind their everything, but they're vegetables. Right. A vegetable with a story and a history not the University of this developed it 50 years ago. We carry black Aztec corn and Hopi blue. Those are both ancient, corns that are used to make flours, and Hopi blue is what the old blue corn for blue corn tortillas, and I've made blue corn tortillas from them, and they're the best tortillas you've ever had. It's just amazing. And I made a cornbread out of black Aztec, and it was ugly because you have this gray flour that you make. And then, of course, I put my free-range eggs that are bright orange in it, and it was this horrible color, and it was the best-tasting cornbread I've ever had. So you close your eyes because it's so good you don't care. But I'm always fascinated by the old stuff, the stuff that families have really taken and done something with and kept in their family. Those are the things that are there for a reason. But, those are the directions I tend to go personally. But I'm just looking for the best storage onion, and I haven't found it yet. So, I'm on this quest of trying to find them. And some of this involves possibly next year contacting someone in the Ukraine who's trading seeds and hoping and praying I get my seeds. That kind of thing, to get some of the varieties from other countries where they're doing this, because we just don't have them available in the United States all the time.
Right. Well, yeah, I tell you what, put your promotional hat on here for a second, and give my listeners maybe a choice of some things that they can put in the ground here pretty soon for their second crop. What are your choices?
Well, one thing that we do that I think is unique is we do collections. I put together small gardens and large gardens that you can buy at a discount as a collection that I put together for you. And we have a fall garden collection and an overwintering garden collection. They're relatively small, but they're those vegetables that you plant now, carrots and cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, your brassicas, your root crops, beets, and your greens, lettuce, and you're going to wait a bit to plant your lettuce and your spinach. And those are those fall crops. And then the overwintering are your roots. They're naturally, I like to look at how the plant naturally reproduces to know when you should plant it and how you should keep it. And the roots and the cabbages family are overwintering to produce seeds. They produce seeds the second year. They're called biennials. And so they're supposed to spend the winter in your garden. And the beautiful thing is, even in the north, if you mulch them good, they sit in your garden, and then they start to come alive in the spring. And I have eaten carrots out of my garden in April as soon as the ground thaws. And cabbages will start, if you cut your cabbage off, it'll put out 4 or 5 little side shoots, and you can eat those in the spring. And so there are a lot of things that you can overwinter that will come up in the spring, and that you're a month or 2 ahead of everyone else for eating fresh out of your garden. Huh. So those are the things. Parsnips overwinter really well, and the beets get a little dry, but if you're patient and you just cook them a long time, they're just as good.
So maybe I'll just get a little bit selfish on the show and ask you about a particular cabbage. We got a good amount of bok choy out there because we happen to like bok choy, and I wonder, is that one of those that you can just cut off and let it?
I'm not. I would harvest the bok choy, but that is definitely a spring and a fall vegetable. Does not like the heat. So
right.
Those are the great things for fall. The greens, they come up so quickly, and you get to enjoy them when they're supposed to be grown. Turnips as well. I always forget them because I don't eat them. And radishes are great. Turnips overwinter beautifully. Things that they tell me I can't get seeds. I have so many turnips growing wild in my garden from the seeds that have come up. So,
really?
Yeah, you don't, a lot of people around here think gardening happens from last frost to first frost, and that's it.
Right.
And it's not that. There's a book called 4-Season Harvest by Elliot Coleman, and he's in Maine, and he figured out how to use a double greenhouse without heat that he monitors to keep to store vegetables in the winter. And he grows all of these greens and roots can be kept and harvested all winter if you monitor it properly. And he's not heating it. He does a CSA that way. Provides people, fresh vegetables all winter. They don't grow in the winter, but they just keep there as long as you don't harvest them when they're frozen. So there are lots of these are the kind of tricks that I like to see where you're using modern techniques of like a greenhouse, but you're not heating it and doing all that unnatural stuff. You're just putting a big greenhouse and you put a little one over top, and you monitor the temperatures in them so that you don't you keep things at the right heat level.
Right. Excellent. All right, that sounds great. Now, is there anything new coming to the website that you might be able to promote here?
I'm still right now. We're in the gardens are growing, and I'm testing things out. So we will always be overhauling the catalog every year, adding some new stuff, taking out some of the stuff that no one wants. But I don't know what's going to be added. I have 5 new lettuces that we're going to add. We finished our lettuce trials, tried about 30 new kinds, and 5 of them met muster, and 2 of them we're hopefully going to get the seeds from. And there's a pea that I'm really excited about, but that's a couple of years off because I can only get 80 seeds from England at a time. And this year we found that which one we want. England has great peas. We found which one we want, and now I have to buy the seeds, and it's going to take 2 or 3 years to get enough to be able to offer it. Because, the first year I'm only going to get 500 seeds, or maybe 1,000, but we need, in order for it to be one of our favorites, we also label what our favorite vegetable of each kind of category is, and it will be the Annie's favorite. I need to be able to grow probably 100 pounds of them, so it'll take me a while.
Right. I was going to go to your website real quick because I thought, did you have a blog? You have a blog, don't you?
Yes, and I've been very negligent in it. It's been a year because I've been so busy. I've got 4 posts written. I just have to get them up. So we're trying to free me up to have enough time to blog. It's been, yes, my husband is hopefully quitting his day job soon after this year, and then that should help free up some time. But right now we're working too many jobs, and it's hard to find the time to write amongst everything else.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, that's fair enough. I thought I saw something about a blog on there the other day.
Yeah, it's the goal is to have it be gardening, recipes, and just some of my, my philosophical stuff. But mostly, I'm gluten-free, but we past that. We don't eat grains in our family. Everyone has an allergy to something, and the grains seem to be the worst culprits. So we eat meat and vegetables and milk from our own goats. So all the recipes are going to inherently be gluten-free and heavily vegetable-based.
Yeah. Well, that's excellent. Actually, we have that in common as well. Our family has stopped eating grain. We're a grain-free family as well. That's where that whole conversation came from with the naturopathic doctor. He was talking about this old corn that used to be contrived of different different minerals and nutrients. So we're down to about a minute and a half left to go, and first of all, I just want to again thank you for coming on to this program. It's been a really, really great show. We've been able to put a lot of information out there. The people are going to eat this up. I think they're going to love this, and I hope that you see an increase of orders too, by the way.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It was a delight.
Oh, it's totally my pleasure. I love doing this. And I wonder, with about a minute left to go here, is there something that you'd like to promote at this point? I mean, outside of www.anniesheirloomseeds.com, because everybody needs to go there first. But other than that, is there something else that go get your fall garden collection and pre-order your garlic. We're taking orders for garlic, which is a fall-planted vegetable, and it comes up in the spring, and it grows very well in the colder climates, just with a little mulch. So get your pre-orders in so that you're sure to get it, because we do sell out. Okay, so your supply is pretty good right now, but we better get out there.
We order a set amount, and we sell what we order, so we can't get more. We have an organic farmer in Washington State that grows it all for us, and we can't get more. Once it's sold out, we're done. So get in early.
Fair enough. I appreciate it. So for Julie from Annie's heirloomseeds.com. This has been Rick Hidalgo, another episode 37 of the House of Hidalgo. I appreciate all of you coming. God bless everyone, and good night.